Hi guys! I have an Easter story for us today. Our story is called The Big Bunny and the Easter Eggs by Steven Kroll, illustrated by Janet Stevens. This was actually my book when I was a little girl. My mom saved it for me all this time. The Big Bunny and the Easter Eggs. Wilbur was very big and very tall. He had great big ears and great big feet. And that was why he was chosen to be the Easter Bunny. He was strong enough to carry lots of baskets. His legs were long enough for him to cross a road in a single hop. And because he delivered his Easter eggs the night before Easter, he never had to worry about being seen. Everyone knows you're not supposed to see the Easter Bunny. This Easter, Wilbur had done all of his work early. He'd woven lots of new wicker baskets, he dyed the Easter eggs, and painted them with pretty designs. He made lots of jelly beans and chocolate candy. Everything was ready to be delivered. Only on Easter Eve, Wilbur got sick. His head was stuffed up, his nose was running, his throat was sore, he had a fever, his ears were red, and his eyes hurt. Wilbur lay in his bed and groaned, "Oh, who was going to deliver the Easter baskets?" Hours went by. It was getting very late. Wilbur's rabbit friends came and banged on his door. "Wilbur!" shouted Hector. "Wilbur, you have to get going." "Wilbur!" shouted Francine. "Wilbur, it's after midnight." "Wilbur!" shouted Charles and Harriet. "Wilbur, if you don't go soon, the children won't have any Easter eggs." "I know," moaned Wilbur, "but I can't get up. I'm too sick." Wilbur's friends banged on the door some more, but Wilbur felt too awful to listen. He took some more medicine, rolled over, and fell back to sleep. Charles and Henrietta talked things over with Hector and Francine. Something had to be done. If Wilbur wasn't going to deliver the Easter eggs, they would have to be delivered for him. Hector and Francine loaded themselves up with Easter baskets. Charles and Henrietta did the same. The baskets were so heavy they could hardly walk. The four of them struggled through the woods. "Hector," said Francine, "Hector, I can hardly see." "That's okay," said Hector. "Just try to follow me, Francine." At that moment, Francine bumped into Hector and Charles bumped into Harriet. Dozens of Easter baskets crashed to the ground. Broken eggs were everywhere. "I think," said Charles, "we'll have to come up with a different idea. It's not working very well." He and Henrietta went to get some red wagons. Hector and Francine helped them load it with Easter baskets. Then, when it was piled high, all four of them pulled the wagons to the road. And suddenly, the wagon hit a rock and turned over. The Easter baskets were scattered everywhere. "I don't think we can do this," said Hector. "Soon it will be morning," said Charles. "We'll have to make Wilbur get up," said Henrietta. Uh-oh, looks like a bigger mess than what they started with. When his four rabbit friends got back to his burrow, Wilbur was still asleep. As they pounded on his door again, he opened one eye. "Wilbur!" shouted Charles. "Wilbur, you have to deliver the eggs yourself." "Wilbur!" shouted Francine. "Wilbur, there isn't much time left." Wilbur lay in bed, grumbling. He blew his nose and he coughed. Hector and Francine ran into the burrow and dumped Wilbur onto the floor. That wasn't very nice. "All right," he said. "All right, I'm coming." He put on his earmuffs, his scarf, and his favorite jacket to make sure that he kept warm. He put an ice pack on his head, a nice big handkerchief in his jacket pocket, and he tucked a hot water bottle under his arm. "Hurry!" his friend shouted. "Hurry, Wilbur! Hurry!" Poor Wilbur, he doesn't feel very good. Wilbur shuffled to the door. "I'm going to do this because it's my duty," he said. "But you're going to have to help me." "Of course," said Hector. "Certainly so," said Francine. "We're your friends," said Charles and Henrietta. Together they pulled Wilbur's load himself up, including Wilbur, up with the Easter baskets. In that moment there were baskets up and down his legs, around his ears, and finally he was ready. Wilbur struggled to get into the woods. With his friends pulling a red wagon behind him, he knew he'd have to hurry. It was almost daylight. But his joints ached and his head hurt. His nose was running and his coughing was just getting worse. He thumped up to the first house. Everyone was fast asleep. He left 2 baskets of eggs on the front doorstep. So far, so good. At the next house, he crept inside and left a basket by the boy's bed. When he got outside, the sun was rising, and a newspaper boy was bicycling into the driveway. Wilbur froze. He was much too tired to run. The boy was sure to see him. At that moment, Francine jumped up and grabbed the newspaper out of the boy's hand. She tossed it to Hector, and the 2 of them thumped off across the yard. "Hey!" yelled the boy. "Come back with that newspaper!" And he ran after Hector and Francine, allowing plenty of time for Wilbur to escape. When the group was back together and Wilbur had caught his breath, he thanked Hector and Francine for saving him. But before he knew it, he was in trouble again. Three hours later, he was leaving a little girl's room when he had to sneeze. He reached for his handkerchief, but not in time to prevent a huge "Hachoo!" The little girl sat right up. Wilbur dove under the bed. His ears and feet stuck out. Any second he'd be seen, and then Charles and Henrietta pulled the covers over the little girl's head. Wilbur jumped up and ran out of the house. Whew, that was a close one. For the rest of the time it took to deliver the Easter baskets, Wilbur was always in danger of being seen. He hid behind trees and dove into bushes. But his friends had to keep saving him. Finally, all the eggs were delivered, and Wilbur was so tired he fell asleep. His friends had to pull him home in the red wagon. When the children started looking for their Easter baskets, they found them under bushes, on fence posts, and hanging from trees. It was the strangest Easter they ever had. But they didn't mind. Easter had never been so much fun. Poor Wilbur. So, if the Easter Bunny hides your eggs in unusual places this year, maybe he wasn't feeling good like Wilbur was. You'll have to tell me. Take some pictures and post it for me. All right, have a good day.